All right, buckle up, everybody, because today we are diving deep into network effects.
Network effects.
Now, I know what you might be thinking.
Yeah.
Network effects. Is this going to be like a jargon overload?
Yeah.
But trust me, by the end of this,
Uh-huh.
you'll not only understand them, but you'll be able to spot them like everywhere.
Okay.
And more importantly, start thinking about how to use them
Yeah.
to your advantage.
I mean, it's true. Network effects are often associated with like big tech companies.
Right.
But the principles behind them, they can apply to almost any business.
Yeah.
And what's so fascinating is that they're kind of this invisible force,
Right.
that can drive massive growth. And they create this competitive edge that's really hard to beat.
Exactly. And to illustrate this simply, I think it's easy to think about just like an old school telephone,
Okay.
a single phone, just sitting by itself.
Yeah.
Pretty useless, right?
It-
But connect millions of them, and suddenly you have something incredibly powerful and valuable.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's the essence of it.
In a nutshell,
You got it.
the network effect.
That's a great analogy. Essentially, a network effect just means that a product or service becomes more valuable the more people use it.
Right.
And that value, it can snowball, right?
Yep.
Leading to these massive platforms that we see today with millions, even billions
Yeah.
of users.
Yep.
Think Facebook,
Facebook, yeah.
YouTube, WeChat.
Yeah.
All these companies have harnessed this power.
They all figured out how to use it.
Exactly.
So in this deep dive, we're going to go on a journey to understand like the different stages of network effects.
Okay.
We'll start with the tricky cold start problem, which is that initial hurdle
Yeah.
where you're trying to build value when your network is still tiny.
Right.
Then we'll explore how to get that growth engine going.
Uh-huh.
And finally, we'll talk about building a competitive moat
Okay.
that can protect your business from rivals.
And the exciting thing is we have some fantastic source material to guide us.
Right.
We're not just going to talk about the theory of network effects. We're going to look at real-world examples, right? Of companies that have cracked the code.
Okay.
Companies like Uber, Airbnb, Slack, Tinder.
Yeah.
They've all kind of mastered this art of building and scaling networks. And we'll unpack their strategies.
I'm so excited about kind of the practical, actionable insights here.
Yeah.
Because I know you listening out there,
Uh-huh.
you're probably thinking, okay, network effects, interesting, but like, how can I apply this to my business?
Right.
Don't worry, we're going to answer that question.
We will.
We'll be digging into some specific tactics
Yeah.
that you can use to potentially ignite network effects in your own ventures,
Right.
regardless of what industry you're in.
Exactly. So whether you're in, I don't know, retail, healthcare, finance, even running a local bakery, understanding these principles, this can give you such a significant advantage
Yeah,
in today's increasingly interconnected world.
right.
So let's dive into that first stage, okay?
Okay.
The cold start problem.
The cold start problem?
This is where so many promising businesses, they stumble, right?
Yeah.
Have this great idea,
Uh-huh.
but how do you create value when your network is still small?
Yeah.
How do you get people to join when
Yeah.
it seems like no one else is there?
Right. It's like the classic chicken and egg problem, isn't it?
It is. It is.
You need the users to make it valuable,
Yeah.
but no one wants to join until it's valuable.
It's a tough one.
The source material actually paints a very vivid picture with this, like, rideshare app scenario.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine launching a rideshare app with, like, only 5 drivers in a city.
I see what you're saying.
What happens?
Oh, it's a disaster.
Yeah.
You're going to have long wait times for the riders.
Right.
Frustrated drivers who aren't making any money. And ultimately, the whole thing could just collapse before it even gets off the ground.
Yeah.
It's a tough nut to crack for sure,
Right.
but there are ways to overcome this initial hurdle.
And one of the key concepts that the source material highlights is this idea of atomic networks.
Atomic networks, yeah.
Can you explain what those are
Sure.
and how they can help with the cold start problem?
Absolutely. So instead of trying to, launch nationwide or even citywide,
Yeah.
the idea is to focus on building these small,
Okay.
highly interconnected networks
Uh-huh.
that provide value right from the start.
Right.
It's about creating these pockets of density
Okay.
where that network effect can take hold, even on a small scale.
So it's about starting smaller, more targeted.
Yeah, I like that. Smaller and more targeted.
It's kind of like building a fire.
Yeah.
You start with kindling, not with a giant log.
Exactly. And a great example of this is the launch of the very first Bank of America credit card,
Okay.
way back in 1958. Now, you might be thinking,
Credit cards and network effects.
yeah, you might be like, what?
I don't get it.
But this story really highlights, like, the brilliance of the atomic network approach.
Okay, you got my attention. Tell me more about this credit card launch.
Okay, so instead of trying to roll out this credit card
Right.
across the entire state of California,
Yeah.
Bank of America strategically focused on a single city, Fresno.
Oh, wow.
And here's the key. They issued all the cards on the same day.
Wow, that's bold. Why would they do that?
By doing that, right, they created this immediate density, right?
Okay.
And a critical mass of users.
Uh-huh.
So people could use their cards right away.
Right.
Merchants were eager to accept them because
Yeah.
they saw so many people had these cards.
Right.
And boom, they had an instant network effect.
Wow.
Even though it was just confined to one city,
Yeah.
Fresno.
That's a fascinating example. So it's all about creating that initial pocket of value.
It is.
Right. Finding that niche where your product is a must-have.
Yeah.
Not just a nice-to-have.
Right.
Even if it's a small niche to start.
Exactly. And something that the source material emphasizes is that network effects aren't this like magical automatic thing, you
Right.
know?
Yeah.
They require this strategic design.
Uh-huh.
You have to be intentional about creating what we call magic moments.
Magic moments. I love that term. Tell me more.
Okay, so magic moments, right?
Yeah.
These are the moments when the network starts working seamlessly
Uh-huh.
and users experience like real value.
Okay.
Think about finding that perfect Airbnb for your trip,
Right.
getting an Uber ride in under 5 minutes,
Yeah.
or connecting with your team instantly on Slack.
Right.
These are the moments that make people go, whoa,
Yeah.
this is actually working. This is valuable.
So it's about designing those experiences
Yes.
that really showcase the power of the network.
Yes.
Those moments where the value proposition becomes undeniable.
Exactly. And that brings us to the next stage, right?
Okay.
How do you actually grow your network
Right.
once you've got that initial spark?
Yeah.
The source material gets really interesting here.
Yeah.
Talking about specific tactics that companies have used to ignite and accelerate network effects.
I love this.
And some of these tactics are surprisingly kind of scrappy and
Okay.
creative, things you might not expect.
All right, so I know our listeners, they're eager to hear about these tactics, these real-world strategies that they can potentially apply to their own businesses.
Oh, we've got some great ones to share.
Okay.
Some involve spending a bit of money up front.
Okay.
Some are about getting your hands dirty and hustling.
Right.
Some are about building something so good
Okay.
that the network forms organically around it.
All right, I'm on the edge of my seat. Let's dive into these growth tactics. Okay, so let's unlock these growth tactics. You mentioned some involve spending money up front. What's the thinking behind that? It seems counterintuitive to, like, spend money to grow when you're just starting out.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It might seem that way, but sometimes you need to strategically invest
Right.
to kind of kickstart that network effect.
Okay.
One tactic that the source material calls it is paying up,
Paying up.
which essentially means you're subsidizing one side of the network
Right.
to drive early adoption.
Oh, so you're essentially, like, buying the early adopters.
Yeah, kind
The
of.
pioneers who are willing to take a chance on your platform.
Exactly. And a classic example of this is Uber's early driver guarantees.
Okay, yeah.
So they knew that to attract riders, they needed a critical mass of drivers on the road.
Right.
But drivers wouldn't join unless they were confident they'd make money, even if there weren't that many riders initially.
Right, of course, yeah.
So Uber essentially subsidized the supply side of their marketplace,
Okay.
guaranteeing drivers a certain income, even if they didn't get many rides.
Wow, so they just paid him.
Pretty much.
Even if they weren't giving rides.
It was a gamble, but it paid off, right?
Yeah.
Drivers felt secure knowing they'd earn a decent amount, and that encouraged them to join the platform.
Yeah.
And as more drivers became available, wait times for riders decreased, the service became more reliable.
Right.
Riders started to flock to the platform.
It's brilliant. So it shows that sometimes you have to be willing to invest strategically
You do.
to overcome that initial inertia, right?
Yep, yes.
And create the conditions for the network effect to take hold.
That early momentum is
Yeah.
so important.
Yeah.
And another example of paying up is actually from the world of evaporated milk.
Wait, Evaporated milk. How does
I
that
know, right?
how does that relate to network effects?
It's a fascinating story, okay? So back in the day, Van Camps, the evaporated milk company, they wanted to increase the demand for their product.
Right.
So they offered grocers these incredibly attractive coupons
Yeah, right.
for their evaporated milk.
So they were subsidizing the retailers then,
They were.
not the customers directly.
Not directly, no.
Just-
It cost them money up front,
Right.
but it guaranteed that their product was like prominently displayed on store shelves.
Right.
And more importantly, right, it meant that shoppers were more likely to buy it because of the discount.
Always okay.
And this, in turn, created this pull effect.
Okay.
Shoppers started asking for Van Camps by name,
Right.
leading grocers to order more, and
Yeah.
so on and so forth.
So it's a clever way to create like a virtuous cycle.
It is.
You subsidize one part of the network
Uh-huh.
and the benefits ripple outward,
They do.
ultimately benefiting your business.
You got it. And this strategy can be adapted to all sorts of businesses.
Yeah.
Think about offering introductory discounts, free trials, even affiliate programs,
Yeah.
to incentivize that early adoption
Right.
and create that initial buzz.
Okay, so that's paying up.
Yeah.
But you also mentioned some kind of scrappier, more hands-on tactics.
Yes.
Tell me about those.
Okay, so not all businesses have the resources to subsidize an entire side of the network.
Right. Yeah.
Sometimes you got to get creative,
Yeah.
resourceful, especially in the early stages.
Right.
One tactic that stands out in the source material is called flintstoning.
Flintstoning.
Okay. I know, it's a fun term.
Right. What does that involve?
Essentially, it means manually replicating the network effects in the early days.
Okay.
It's like faking it till you make it,
Right.
but in a strategic and ethical way.
Okay, so instead of waiting for users to populate the platform and create that organic buzz, you're doing it yourself behind the scenes.
Exactly. A classic example is Reddit.
Okay.
In the early days, the founders, they created fake accounts
Right.
and posted content themselves
Wow.
to make the site seem more active and engaging.
I never knew that. So they were pretending to be users.
They were.
Creating the illusion of a thriving community.
Exactly. Now, it might sound a bit unorthodox,
Yeah.
but it was a way to get the ball rolling,
Right.
They knew that if the site felt empty, lifeless, no one would stick around.
No one would join, yeah.
Exactly. So they were essentially creating those magic moments artificially
Right.
to give potential users a taste of, what the platform could be like once it gained traction.
Right, like giving them a little sneak peek.
Yeah, a little sample.
Okay.
And this tactic isn't just limited to online platforms.
Okay.
Think about Yelp.
Uh-huh.
In the early days, a lot of the initial reviews were written by Yelp employees.
Really? Wow, so they were seeding the platform with content
Yeah, they were.
to make it more appealing to users.
That's exactly what they were doing.
It's like building a stage set
Yes.
before the actors arrive.
I love that analogy.
Making sure that the environment's all set
Yeah.
for a compelling performance.
Yes, it is. And flintstoning doesn't have to be about faking it entirely.
Okay.
It can also be about being really proactive
Uh-huh.
in the early days.
Right?
The source material talks about Uber's operations team
Oh, yeah.
launching in new cities.
Right. I've heard stories about their kind of legendary hustle
Oh, yeah.
in those early days.
They didn't just launch the app and hope for the best.
Yeah.
They hit the streets,
Yeah.
partnered with local businesses, recruited drivers, like one by one.
Wow.
They even stood outside of events
Really?
to promote the app.
Wow.
They were relentless in their effort to build that initial critical mass.
It's a testament to the power of hustle.
It is.
Right.
Yeah,
Scrappiness. In the early stages,
it really is.
you can have the best technology in the world,
Uh-huh.
but sometimes it's that human touch,
Absolutely.
that on-the-ground effort
Yeah.
that makes things happen.
It worked. Uber's a global giant now.
Right.
But it all started with those localized, hands-on efforts.
Yeah.
It proves that network effects can be built city by city,
Nice.
block by block,
Wow.
even person by person.
Okay, so we've talked about paying up and flintstoning.
We have.
Are there any other growth tactics that kind of stand out in the source material?
There's one more that I find really intriguing,
Okay.
and it's a bit more kind of subtle.
Okay.
It's called come for the tool, stay for the network.
Ooh, I like that one. So you're luring them in with something useful
Yeah, exactly.
and then revealing the power of the network later on.
You got it. And the perfect example is Instagram.
Okay.
They initially focused on building these amazing photo filters that made your pictures look incredible.
It's like having a professional photo editor
I know.
in your pocket.
Exactly. And people flocked to the app just for that.
Yeah.
Not necessarily even for the social networking aspect.
Yeah, it was all about the filters.
It was.
When it first came out.
And as that user base grew,
Yeah.
Instagram subtly layered in those social features,
Right.
allowing you to follow friends, share your photos,
Great.
and kind of build this network around your shared love of photography.
I see. So they started with a killer tool.
Yeah,
That solved a real problem for people,
absolutely.
making their photos look awesome.
Uh-huh.
And then once they had a captive audience,
They did.
they introduced the network element.
Smart. Right.
It's brilliant. It's
Yeah.
like you're focusing on delivering immediate value up front.
That's the key.
Yeah. You're not even pushing the network effect initially.
Not at all.
You're just building something so good
Yeah.
that the network forms organically around it.
It's like a magnet for users.
Right.
You create this powerful pull.
You do.
And the network effect, it becomes this natural extension of the value you're already providing.
Exactly. And this approach highlights like a really important point, right?
Uh-huh.
You need to solve a real problem.
Right. For your users,
Yeah.
if your product, your service genuinely helps them,
Yeah.
if it makes their lives better or easier,
Yeah.
the network will follow.
The network will follow. Okay, so we tackled the cold start problem,
We did.
and we've explored some powerful tactics for igniting network effects, driving growth.
Uh-huh.
But what happens when things start to take off?
Yeah.
How do you keep the momentum going?
Right.
How do you scale a network effectively
Okay.
without losing control or letting the quality degrade?
That's the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Scaling a network comes with its own set of challenges and opportunities.
Of course, yeah.
It's not enough to just grow.
Right.
You have to grow in a way that's sustainable, healthy,
Right.
and benefits both the users and the business.
And the source material actually dives into some of the key forces that drive sustainable network effects,
It does.
as well as kind of some of the potential pitfalls to avoid.
And understanding these forces and these pitfalls is key to successfully navigating the growth phase
Right.
and building a network that can truly stand the test of time.
Okay, so let's talk about those forces that drive sustainable network effects.
Mm.
The source material breaks them down into three key categories: acquisition, engagement, and economics.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like kind of a powerful trifecta, you know?
It really is. It creates a sort of flywheel effect
Uh-huh.
that can propel a network to incredible heights.
Okay.
So let's start with the acquisition effect, all right?
Okay.
This is all about using the network itself to acquire new users, right?
Right.
It's about turning your existing users into advocates, ambassadors who help you reach new audiences.
Oh, so it's like a self-perpetuating cycle.
It is.
Like the bigger the network gets,
Yeah.
the easier it becomes to attract even more users.
Think about how viral growth works.
Right.
Through referrals.
Yeah.
A great example is PayPal's early program, where they literally paid people to invite their friends.
Wow.
They knew that word-of-mouth marketing was incredibly powerful,
Yeah, of course.
especially in the early days when building trust and credibility was so important.
Right, right, yeah.
I mean, they incentivized users to spread the word, right?
Yeah.
Essentially tapping into the power of their existing network to fuel their growth.
And this principle can apply to so many businesses too.
So many.
Think about, referral programs, affiliate marketing,
Yeah.
even just encouraging your users to share their positive experiences
Absolutely.
on social media.
It's all about leveraging that enthusiasm
Right.
of your existing users to attract new ones.
It's like you're building a community of evangelists.
You are. You are.
Right. People who are so passionate about your product or service,
Yes.
they can't help but tell others about it.
Exactly. And that brings us to the second force, the engagement effect.
Engagement effect.
This is all about increasing user engagement as the network grows.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
The more engaged your users are, the more valuable that network becomes.
Give me a concrete example.
Okay, sure.
Because I'm trying to visualize how this plays out in a real business.
Let's go back to our Uber example.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
As more drivers join the platform, wait times for riders decrease.
Right.
There are more ride options available,
Right.
and the overall experience improves
Right.
for everyone.
Yeah.
Happier riders are more likely to use the service again,
Of course.
which in turn creates more demand for drivers,
Yeah.
attracting even more drivers to the platform.
Right. So it's a positive feedback loop.
It is.
where everyone benefits as the network grows.
Exactly. And this principle can apply to all sorts of businesses too.
Yeah.
Think about like an online marketplace.
Okay.
Like Etsy.
Yeah.
As more sellers join the platform,
Uh-huh.
there's a wider variety of products available,
Right.
which attracts more buyers. More buyers mean more sales for the sellers,
Yeah.
which encourages even more sellers to join.
Right. It's like a...
It's a win-win situation that's
Mhm.
fueled by the power of engagement.
Okay, so we got acquisition, engagement. What's that third force driving this network effect flywheel?
The third force is the economic effect.
Economic effect.
This is all about how the business model itself improves as the network scales.
Okay.
As the network grows, it often becomes more efficient, more profitable, and more resilient.
Give me an example of that. I'm curious to see how this plays out in a real-world scenario.
Okay, think about eBay.
Okay.
Okay. As more buyers and sellers join the platform,
Yeah.
conversion rates increase, right? Because
Right.
there's more variety,
Yeah.
more competition,
Uh-huh.
and more trust.
Right.
This, in turn, leads to higher revenue for eBay,
Right.
allowing them to invest further in the platform,
Yeah.
attracting even more users, and so on, you know.
Wow. So it's like a snowball effect.
It is.
But instead of just getting bigger, the snowball's also getting denser,
Yeah, I like that.
more compact,
Yeah.
more valuable as it rolls along.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And this economic effect, it's crucial
Yeah.
because it allows businesses to create sustainable growth
Right.
that benefits both the company and the users.
Okay, I'm seeing how these three forces, acquisition, engagement, economics, they work together to create this like powerful growth engine
Right.
for network-driven businesses. But as we all know, no business journey is without its challenges.
True.
Right. And the source material actually mentions some potential pitfalls
Yeah.
to watch out for as your network grows.
It's true. Even the most successful networks can encounter bumps along the way.
What are some of those?
One common challenge is hitting the ceiling.
Hitting the ceiling.
So growth inevitably slows down, right?
Right.
As a network matures
Okay.
and starts to saturate its target market.
Right.
It's like reaching the peak of a mountain. You can't keep climbing forever.
So how do you deal with that?
Right.
Is it just a matter of accepting that growth will eventually plateau?
Not necessarily. There are ways to overcome this challenge
Okay.
and continue finding new avenues for growth. Okay.
Okay.
A great example is eBay.
Okay.
Their initial auction format was
Yeah.
a huge hit,
Yeah.
but eventually it started to feel clunky,
Yeah.
inefficient for certain types of products,
Wow.
especially those where people just wanted to buy something quickly and easily.
Who wants to wait for an auction to end when you just need like
I
a new phone charger or like a pack of batteries?
Exactly. So eBay introduced the Buy It Now feature,
Right.
which allowed sellers to offer a fixed price
Yeah.
for their items. This opened up a whole new segment of users
Okay.
who preferred the simplicity, the
Yeah.
immediacy of a direct purchase.
So they essentially found a way to expand their network
They did.
by catering to a slightly different need within their existing market.
Yeah, they got creative.
So hitting the ceiling isn't necessarily a dead end.
It's not.
It's more like a signal to like get creative, to
Right.
find new ways to expand the network or tap into unmet needs within your existing user base.
That's a great way to look at it. It's about being adaptable,
Yeah.
constantly looking for ways to like unlock new value.
Right.
Another challenge mentioned in the source material
Okay.
is what's called the law of shitty click-throughs.
The law of shitty click-throughs. Okay, that name definitely got my attention.
Yeah, it's a catchy name.
Tell me more about this law.
All right. Essentially, it means that marketing channels degrade over time.
Okay.
What worked brilliantly last year might not work as well this year.
Right, right.
People get banner blindness. They
Yeah.
become desensitized to certain types of ads.
Right.
And the overall effectiveness of your marketing efforts can decline.
Ouch. That's a tough reality, especially for those of us who rely heavily on digital marketing these days.
It is.
So how do you combat that? How do you keep your marketing fresh and effective
Right.
in a world where people are just bombarded with messages all the time?
Okay, so instead of chasing fleeting trends
Yeah.
or relying too heavily on any single channel,
Mm.
the key is to focus on sustainable strategies.
Okay.
It's about building a brand that people genuinely love and trust.
Right.
Not just one they're lured into through clever marketing tactics.
Yeah.
It's about creating a network that people want to be a part of, not
Mhm.
just one they're tricked into joining.
So it's about building genuine value, not just generating hype.
Exactly.
It's about creating a product or service that people truly appreciate and are happy to recommend to others.
It's about those long-term relationships.
Yeah.
Think about building a strong community around your brand,
Right.
creating content that's truly helpful and engaging,
Right.
and focusing on like delivering exceptional customer experiences.
Yeah.
These are the things that build long-term loyalty and advocacy,
Yeah, for sure.
which are far more valuable than
Right.
any short-term marketing gimmick.
Okay, that makes sense. So we got hitting the ceiling, the law of shitty click-throughs. Are there any other potential pitfalls that we should be aware of?
One more that's worth mentioning is overcrowding.
Overcrowding.
Can a network become too big for its own good?
Oh, interesting.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Think about a platform like YouTube.
Okay.
They have billions of users,
Right.
hours of content being uploaded every minute.
That's a lot. Yeah.
It can be incredibly difficult for creators to get noticed,
Right.
for viewers to find what they're looking for. It's
Yeah.
a double-edged sword, right?
Yeah.
While a large network offers incredible variety and reach,
Right.
it can also be overwhelming
Yeah.
and difficult to navigate.
So how do you manage kind of the chaos? How do you keep the experience enjoyable and valuable
Right.
for everyone involved,
Yeah.
even as the network grows to a massive scale?
That's where smart design and technology come in.
Okay.
You know, YouTube, for example, they've done like a remarkable job
Yeah.
of developing these sophisticated algorithms
Right.
to personalize the user experience.
Yeah.
They analyze your viewing history,
Uh-huh.
your subscriptions,
Right.
even your pauses and rewinds
Wow. Rhythm.
to recommend content that's tailored to your interest.
Yeah.
It's all about filtering out the noise
Right.
and creating a curated experience for
Right.
each individual user.
So it's about finding ways to make a vast network feel smaller and more intimate, right?
It is. It is.
Yeah. To create those personalized experiences that make people feel seen and understood,
Yeah.
even amidst a sea of content and users.
Exactly. It's about using data and technology
Yeah.
to enhance the human connection,
Right.
not replace it.
Okay, so we've explored the three forces that drive sustainable network effects.
We have.
And we've talked about some of the potential pitfalls to watch out for.
Yeah.
But there's one more concept I want to circle back to.
Okay.
That moat we mentioned earlier. How do network effects create like a competitive advantage?
Right.
That almost unbreachable barrier
Yeah.
that protects your business from rivals.
This is where the power of network effects, it becomes truly apparent.
Yeah.
The source material tells this fascinating story
Okay.
about Airbnb's battle with a European competitor called Wimdu.
Wimdu. Okay.
Wimdu was essentially a clone of Airbnb.
Okay.
They had way more funding,
Wow.
more employees.
Yeah.
They even seemed to have like more traction in their home market.
All right.
They were on paper
Yeah.
the superior competitor.
So it sounds like they were set up to win, at least based on those like traditional metrics.
It seemed that way.
What happened?
Yeah.
How did Airbnb, kind of the underdog in this fight, manage to come out on top?
Okay, so Airbnb did something really smart.
Okay.
They doubled down on building a strong community
Right.
and a superior product.
Okay.
They focused on creating those magic moments
Right.
that made people fall in love with the Airbnb experience.
Uh-huh.
Think about the personalized touches, the unique listings,
Right.
the trust and safety features,
Yeah.
the emphasis on connecting with local hosts
Right.
and experiencing a destination like a local.
And that community, that positive network effect,
Yeah.
that became their ultimate weapon, their
Yeah.
secret sauce
Yeah.
that Wimdu, with all of their resources, couldn't replicate.
They couldn't.
So a moat, it isn't just about being big or having a lot of money.
It's not.
It's about having a defensible advantage,
Yeah.
a network that's deeply rooted in
Yeah.
user value, trust, and connection.
It's about creating something that people genuinely care about
Yeah.
and want to be a part of.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into network effects,
Yeah.
what are kind of the key takeaways for our listeners?
Right.
What should they be thinking about as they apply these concepts to their own businesses?
I think the biggest takeaway is that network effects are incredibly powerful,
Yeah.
but they're not a magic bullet.
Right.
They require strategic planning, creative problem solving, and a deep understanding of your users.
It's not just about building a product.
It's not.
It's about building a network.
It is.
that's valuable, engaging, sustainable.
Yes,
Right? And being prepared to adapt and evolve
absolutely.
as you grow.
We've explored kind of the different stages of building network effects,
Right.
from that initial cold start
Mm-hmm.
to scaling and overcoming challenges,
Right.
all the way to building a moat
Yeah.
that can protect your business.
And we've seen how companies like Uber, Airbnb, Slack, eBay, PayPal,
So
YouTube,
many, yeah.
and so many others have leveraged network effects to achieve massive success. It's inspiring to see how these concepts can play out in the real world
That is.
across so many different industries.
But here's a final thought
Yeah.
for you to ponder, okay?
Okay.
What are the magic moments you could create in your business?
Ooh, good question.
If you harnessed the power of network effects effectively,
Yeah.
what would it look like to build a network that's not just big, but truly valuable
Right?
and deeply connected to your users?
That's a great question to leave our listeners with. It's all about thinking beyond like the product, beyond the
Yeah.
transaction,
Uh-huh.
and focusing on building a network
Yeah.
that creates real value and fosters lasting connections.
Well said. Thanks for joining us on this
Yeah.
deep dive. We'd love to hear your thoughts, your experiences,
Yeah.
even your own magic moments with network effects. Connect with us on social media
Right.
and share your insights.
All right, everyone. Until next time.